All Might finally gets onto the scene. He looks at both of them and throws a huge punch at Bakugo first, making him hit into a building, kind of crashing down wind of the the wind of the punch, the force of the punch, pushing down most of the stuff that was in the way. And Bakugo just felt the whole brunt of it, and really it's starting to hurt. And All Might looks over to Zuko, give a very evil grin that he should not have, and Zuko let his guard down on purpose and let him get hit by All Might. All Might threw a huge punch at Zuko, and Zuko he is flying, rolling around on the floor, a bit up and down until he finally slides on the floor. And he let some blood, of course, stabbing himself for some blood to come out. And Bakugo sees that he got beaten down and thought to himself, he is a weakling. And so Bakugo went after All Might. Every blast that he make, any kick or punches, it does not affect him. Of course, it's All Might, and All Might laughs at his face that you're a weakling and you can't do anything, and threw a few punches at him. Every time he was pushed back, Bakugo gets back up and starts running towards him to make another punch, and it's getting harder and harder. Zuko is just laying there and just watching this whole thing, waiting until Bakugo has enough of his first plan. And Zuko finally, gets up after his fake wounds, the ones that he did to himself, to make sure it's believable. He kind of dusts himself off and walks over to Bakugo now, which All Might was just looking around for Zuko since he's not at his usual spot. Zuko asks Bakugo, standing right on over him, leaning over on top of his face, and said it in a very soft tone. You want to use my plan? If Bakugo was about to say something, but Zuko stopped him and said, if you don't, it will mean that you failed, which also means that you will not be able to become a hero any sooner. So, are you going to be a failure, or are you actually going to pass this one? Trust me, I don't like the idea either. But, as he cracks his knuckles, I would love to beat down All Might too. How about this? As he tells him his plan as he picked up Bakugo. Bakugo hates to admit it, and he really do hate it. Said, that's a really good idea. And you think you can take him. And Zuko said, as he tightened up his tie, said, yes, I can. And I will beat him down. So Bakugo gets ready and yells out in top of his lungs that he's not done. And All Might finally comes back again after giving up of finding Zuko, thinking he went to the exit, flies over and sees Bakugo standing once again by himself. And when Bakugo and All Might was about to throw another punch at each other, Zuko came in out of nowhere. Of course, everybody's seeing this in the room. They were, of course, worried about Bakugo and Zuko, but Momo was worried about Zuko more, since he was somehow knocked out instantly. And when he got up out of nowhere, she was fully relieved. And some of the girls and guys are starting to notice some more details. Back onto the fight. Zuko came out of nowhere, right in front, behind of All Might, and held back his punch in a certain way with his tails to make it where he can't move. Bakugo threw his huge explosion into All Might's face, which made him go blind for a few seconds. Zuko takes his chance and starts using his armor arm, all the way to his arm and his left one as well, on both of them, and start punching and kind of cutting up All Might just a bit on his skin, for he can feel more pain. As it is going on, Bakugo is going back and trying to make himself sweat even more, trying to collect more sweat in his gauntlets. And Zuko is distracting All Might as All Might finally comes back from the blindness, sees Zuko, and start going after him. A bunch of punches. And Zuko, All Might's surprise, Zuko's dodging them like no other could. Like he can see the future. And he's getting tired of this, so he starts to go a little harder and harder just to hit Zuko one more time. Because in the back of his head, he was given a challenge if he could beat Zuko. Which Nezu, of course, made this bet, knowing full well that Zuko will win, one way or another. Now Zuko, he's dodging them very fluently. Fluently? Like a leaf in the wind. Like that fluent. And when Zuko dodged the third punch after All Might was wheeling it back a lot, and a huge gust of wind was pushing everything back, Zuko decided to fly along with it and bring out his wings. As he gets higher and higher up to the sky, All Might thinks that those wings are nothing, only a parachute. So he jumped up straight at Zuko, and when Zuko suddenly moves, All Might thinks he was falling, and he looks down. But Zuko tells him, over here. No, over here. That's a car. I believe I know that one. Oh well. So, All Might is now looking around, and he's keeping himself off with his quirk, of course. That's how he does it. And he's seeing that Zuko is flying around him over and over, going faster for some unknown reason, they're both falling down, because All Might can't stay up there any longer. And Zuko is just going faster, wheeling up his tail, trying his very best to elongate that very piece long enough. And he's just waiting for the perfect moment. Until it gets very close into the ground, All Might will get into a position where he won't take a full brunt of it, and Zuko strikes, retracts his wings, and when he was spinning, did a huge, he just brought out two of his tails, grabbed onto him, and All Might started to spin along with him, and kept going into all the way down. And when Zuko finally let go, All Might was falling, spinning. And that spin basically made the impact even harder and made him dizzy as well, since he wasn't expecting that huge brunt force in the G-force of the spin. When All Might finally gets back up, looks around, looks for Zuko, getting a little dizzy. Zuko was flying away. And All Might thinks this is not a good idea, so he runs over to Zuko, learning his lesson not to fly because, looks like Zuko can fly. And he got there fast enough where he can throw another punch straight up into Zuko's direction, and Zuko was waiting for this. And he opened up his wings even more, further out his range. And he just took up the whole thing and just flew up higher. All Might made his own mistake, and he saw in the glance of a slight flash. He looks over and sees Bakugo pulling both of his pins over at All Might on his stomach. And All Might sees this in a shock. And, a big bang happened. Zuko is still in the air, and he tells tried to tell him to run, but Bakugo can't because there was too much of a brunt force on his arms to go anywhere else. So he's in a thing duck. All Might, of course, wincing in pain by his scar and that blast, has two choices, either Zuko or Bakugo, and he's choosing Bakugo, at least getting one person to fail. So he winds up his punch one more time, even withstanding the pain on his stomach as well as his side, and Zuko is going down faster and faster. He is doing the same thing that he did to All Might, spinning in a way, but with his tails, making them in a way where the wings, basically wings, all four of his tails in a way where he's spinning and spinning, faster and faster, going down and down, from 20 stories to 10 stories in a second. And when he finally gets there, he armor up his whole right arm and most of his right body, and was just right do a Superman punch straight on All Might. And right there, All Might looked at Bakugo, and Bakugo was looking up. And that split second, All Might, well, he directs his his punch towards Bakugo, but he aimed it up, making an uppercut on wherever he believes that Zuko was going to hit him at. And it was exactly the same spot. Now, All Might is in a Superman pose as well as Zuko, only right at All Might. Fist to fist, and none of them are holding back. They're going full brunt, the strongest that Zuko can do in his third form, as All Might in his form. And something cracked, and it wasn't Zuko's armor. His All Might's hand actually broke on the impact, but the force of All for One, or One for All, pushed Midoriya back. So they made a huge clash, sonic boom of sorts, which of course pushed back Bakugo, and Zuko was getting pushed back again. All Might taking this chance and was going after Zuko once more time. But this time Zuko got a little tired and decided to let him get hit and become a punching bag. Zuko is showing him he's tired by breathing heavily, trying to get up slower. And All Might sees this and takes his chance, becoming the villain of this scene. And he started to play out a few lines that he was preparing of being a villain, saying, "Ha ha, hero, you cannot defeat me. Not even your powerful strength, powerful weapon can never defeat me, the great evil All Might." As he kept going, and Zuko, of course, raised up his hands into a cross section, basically in front of his face, and just taunts All Might that this is nothing. I can take more. What's going on? What's happening? I thought you were going to beat me, All Might. As he's just waiting for the next blow, and he is taking it. Now he's standing up and just withstanding the whole thing. He brought out his tails and just stabbed them into the ground to withstand the punches. And All Might is going hand to hand, every single punch, every blow, every percentage, all the way to 100%, onto Zuko until he falls, and he is not falling for anything. And All Might is taking up this whole time not to realize the buzzer went off. He did not realize this at all. Sorry about that. Someone right next to me just started up their truck and taking forever to leave. So I had to move out of the way. Anyway, and I'm in a very bright area, so I hate this area. Back into the fight. Here we go. As All Might did not hear the bell or even the ringing in his he was more focused on the bet, and he really wants to win it because it was a bonus. Of all things, he was going to get a bonus on his check, and it was a really huge one. So he was focused on trying to beat down Zuko just to at least get onto his knees. And Zuko, after all this blunt force the whole time, he sees All Might finally slowing down on most of his punches. And when it finally went down, Zuko finally moves out of the way for the last punch, for All Might to go straight to the ground. Zuko turns out all the way around and brings out his handcuff and in a swift motion pulling out his wings. In a quick flash, All Might realizes in front of his hands that he's handcuffed. And he looks over to Zuko in a very furious tone that I lost. Zuko, of course, after the whole beatdown, he secretly broke his finger, his pinky, of course, and, well, swallowed it. As he was getting over to Recover Girl, Recover Girl, of course, is seeing him regenerate very quickly, and she knows how fast he is. But he asks for some other stuff because he's used up a little too much of his stamina, which she kind of understands, but really doesn't want to since it's backup. But Zuko said, please. He's kind of putting his hands together and bowing just a bit. I'd be very grateful, ma'am. And Recover Girl can't say no to him, especially when he does something like that. So she does and give him a pack of blood. Zuko, of course, rip it open quickly and just chug the whole thing down. Human flesh, very quick. Not like his own, but very quick. And it heals up all the wounds that he collected throughout the whole time. Now, when he gets back into the video room, everybody was talking to Bakugo this whole time up until Zuko finally comes in. And everybody rushed to Zuko and asked him about his plan and how did he withstand it? How did he think of it so far ahead and all the other stuff? And Zuko basically said, I knew who I was fighting against this whole week. So I had a few ideas on how to beat him. And so they are shocked, but they are very curious on who told you. And Zuko said, oh, Nezu. If you ask him nicely, he will have just told you what his plan was. Of course, it was not true for everybody else, but that's his excuse, and they took it. And Momo's especially surprised, as well as the Todoroki, and, well, the top 5 of their class, is more asking about his plans on what if this never happened or that never happened. And Zuko, of course, responds with his backups and actually just focusing on a big area where All Might believes he had the advantage. Just having their opponent be in belief that they're in the advantage area will let their guard down enough where they get weaker and make it easier for me to beat them down. Of course, not the way I wanted to, but it was really hard to get Bakugo to agree as he looks over to Bakugo on my plans. But at least we win, and no losing belt, no losing marks on his belt anymore. As everybody finally walks up to, by Aizawa, they tell everybody that they're going to get their final scores of their test later in the days. So a 3-day weekend goes on. I decided not to. Hold on. I need to do a coin flip. Okay, I made a choice. Basically, heads, island, tails, no. And it went on tails. So, whatever happened in Island basically happened, but with Mirio, not with All Might, and not with Izuku. And since, well, Momo wasn't allowed to, he. Let me just start with it. So the first day on the break, Momo was given the invitation, but she declined it, mostly because she was more focused on her schoolwork, trying to become the very best. And she was also given, they also, discussed on a time, and it was basically on Monday. Next week, basically. When they were talking about it, the scheduling was on Monday. Okay. But Momo was, of course, talking to Zuko on this weekend date. Zuko, of course, took her in some other areas that was very interesting and different. Instead, of course, they talked a bit, and at the end of the date, Zuko was walking her home to a point that she felt comfortable with. And Zuko, of course, stopped and asked her, "I'll see you on Monday." And Momo said, "Yeah, I'll see you there. Until then." Zuko said, "Of course," as he kind of bows and tried to say goodbye. But Momo was holding his hand. And Zuko, felt it, turned around and asked her if anything else she wants to talk about. And she wants to explain that her parents are throwing a party, and I really want you to come, but it's like very important. And Zuko said, "Oh, if it's very important and I'm not allowed to go, I guess I'm not allowed to go. No worries. I trust you. You will do the best of your abilities." And Momo, she believed to herself, and she said this out loud. "But don't you think I might cheat on you and talk to other guys?" And Zuko said, "Oh, that's why? Huh. I won't see it as a bad thing. You have to be polite to your party guests, of course." And Momo said, "Really? So you won't be mad if I talk to other guys?" And Zuko said, "Of course. I talk to many people and I don't see the problem with it. I I don't understand what you're asking. I thought this was normal." As Momo tried to explain that, like in some couples, others, mostly the newer ones, no one is allowed to talk to anybody, just to each other. But Zuko replied with, "But you'll talk to your parents, your family, your friends. So why not strangers?" I'm sorry, but I'm getting really tired. I have a lot of things to do tomorrow. And Momo said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And she keeps saying "yeah," and she's just still holding his hands. And Zuko, of course, grabbed onto her hands with both of his. She kind of just thinks to herself that his hands are big and strong, and many other stuff. Zuko, of course, raised them up in between each other, pull her in, and for the first time ever, very surprised, again, that she felt a hug from Zuko. And Zuko kind of just whispered in her ear, "It's okay. I don't mind." He holds it and he thinks to himself, he's counting up for a minute. And then he let go. Said, okay, as he says goodbye and leaves. After she gets home, very happily that she got a hug from him for the first time, and she's marking down on everything she wants to do as a couple. And on the list it says kissing. And she blushes extremely red on that point, thinking that's way too far, and puts her book away. She gets dressed and all that other stuff. And she was told that, well, of course, they're doing a party and what time and all their guests, especially a special guest from UA. And what they're talking about is Principal Nezu. Since, well, they're the main donation, Momoyarozu company is the main donationer to UA. They do it often enough, but not the amount of money, just often enough to be important. Toroki, he decided to go over to, well, he was forced to go over to Island, as well as Bakugo, so they are over there and helping whatever happens over there. Not gonna cover it because it doesn't really matter. Basically, Mario and his two friends, since he wants to take his friends, were invited by All Might, talk a bit, and when everything went down and the tower was taken over, Todoroki, Bakugo, and Kirishima was at the garden area, and they collided, became a team, and defeated Wolford. All that other stuff. Here we go. Back to their story. Sorry. I need to get it straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, the next day. Basically night. Momo's in her room. She's talking to everybody. Become a very polite party guest. Party hostess. Talking to everybody else, and Momo's parents, of course, are out there and talking to many. And when one person finally comes in, and her parents looks over and looking at this young man in this kind of outfit, but of course he had a name tag on his side for everybody to know who he is, and he actually has two, which most other people only have one. So the Yazaruzu, mother and father, went up to him and asked him, why is he here? And Zuko, of course, says, well, I'm here because of my father. He wants to explain the situation. He explained to them that his father is not going to be present at this time or any of the night, since he has to go into an important conversation with a few of his co-workers, which in the back of his head, he really just didn't want to come. He doesn't like parties and mingle with the people, so he finally has someone to fill it in, which was sadly him. Back to the conversation, he said, I'm very sorry, but you must have to deal with me instead of my father. And, well, Momo overheard the voice, and she knows that voice anywhere. So she walked up right behind her parents and sees Zuko. And she was very questioning all of this on why is he here, how did he get in here, and most important, why does he have two name tags? And Zuko, of course, says father at the end. And Momo's parents said, oh, yes. Right after the party, I really need to talk with you with more details. As they both leave and, well, of course, attend to the other guests. They leave. Momo walks up to Zuko in her dress, which is this one right here. Of course, I can't find anything else. She is come out in a dress like this, and she admires Zuko's outfit as well as Zuko looks at hers and replies that she looks very nice today, and at this party, of course. And Momo said, "Yeah, you too." As that little silence, and he was basically walking around looking for something to drink since he's very parched. After taking a few cups of water and handing one to Momo, Momo finally asked the question on why is he here? How did you get here? And she thinks back of her head that he is protecting her or trying to make sure that no one crossed the line. But Zuko surprised her again that he's here for his father. He didn't want to come here, and he needed someone to at least go as his voice of reason, I believe. I'm not sure either. And Momo said, "Oh, really? Who's your father? I never remembered to ask." And Zuko said, "Oh, right. It's no big deal. At least I don't see it, but most people who I talk to thinks it's such a serious thing." Which Momo thinks it's someone regular. It could be like, well, one of their business partners that has a son, and they have a kid that's also Zuko. Something like that. The next word that Zuko says kind of shocked her and kind of almost dropped her cup. She had to pick it back up, and she looks over at Zuko and said, I'm sorry. Did you wait? No. But how? Oh, wait." And Zuko said, yeah. No worries, he's very nice. But Mom said, "But Nezu, he's the principal, and wait." And she remembered that his parents died, and then he got adopted. So she finally gets all the puzzles together. He got adopted by Nezu, and by that time, okay, not sure why. This picture's way better than the other one. Anyway, they're talking a bit more about their weekends and why this happened. Zuko said, "Yeah, I didn't know about this party exactly. It was all last minute for me. But at least I put on a good outfit for the occasion, of course." Which Momo, of course, agrees and kind of blushes at this point. So the party went on for a bit, and then, the DJ pulled out some music, and it was kind of type where the couples, decided to start dancing in a big, fancy way. Momo really wants to dance out there, but she just can't pick up the nerve to say if she wants to dance and all that other stuff. So Zuko is just standing there, and some guys came over to Momo and asked her if she would like to have a dance. And she kind of looks over to Zuko and then back at Zuko and then back at them. Zuko finally getting the idea and kind of move and just ask for Momo if she would like to have a dance. And she said yes to him, not being rude to the others. And Zuko, of course, take her to the dance floor, come up in a way where to dance properly. And Momo grabbed him on his hand and was a few inches away, and Zuko, of course, grabbed her by her hips, kind of to her waist, because that's the proper way of dancing, and ask her if she's okay with this. Since I believe you don't know how to dance, correct? And Momo said, no, no, it's not that. It's just I wanted to dance with you. And Zuko said, oh, I see. So, shall we start? As Momo said, yes, let's start. And so Zuko grabbed onto her tightly, where their bodies, their chest to chest, stomach to stomach, legs to legs, are very close to each other. And when they started to dance, Momo danced as usual, but Zuko danced along with her rhythm, to the point where it seems like they're dancing as one. And everybody around them is somewhat clapping and, well, saying a few things that they're dancing as if they know each other for so long. And some of the couples reply on that same thing, saying that they can never do such a thing since it's almost impossible to dance so fluent. After the song was over and everybody was basically tired, the applause came around the whole room. And as Zuko and Momo get off the dance floor, off to an area to take a few sips and some snacks, and just talking for a bit, which Momo is showing a very big smile and just enjoying herself fully. And a smile that her parents, have never seen their daughter show. Zuko, of course, is just kind of neutral, but showing a slight smile throughout the whole conversation. Of course, nodding, agreeing, and kind of talking back on some other facts. And they're seeing all of this. Momo's parents are seeing all of this. So they got curious and got up to the table. As Momo, well, of course, got scared, kind of said, "Oh, hi, Mom, Dad. I thought you were talking to, him." And she points at the other guy. Well, kind of glanced over to the other guy. They said, "Yes, we were, but we were curious about you two." That her mother said. Zuko, of course, not flinching or being very skittish or scared, looks over to the Momo, the Yaruzus, and said, "Oh, hello. I'm sorry, I did not see you coming. What would you like to talk about? I believe this would be a good time." As, well, the father finally looks over to Zuko and asks him about his relationship with his daughter. And Zuko said, "Oh, I am her classmate and friend," without hesitation. And Mr. Yazaruzu said, yes, I don't see, why are you so friendly with my daughter? Is it money that you want? If so, can you please not use her to get to me? And Zuko said, "I'm sorry, sir, but I'm here for Nezu, and I just enjoy talking with Momo. Using the first name, I see," as he replied. And Zuko said, "Yes. Is it rude not to say it with others? Friends? Classmates?" And Momo was kind of caught him off at the end part that he was about to say lovers, but she knew Zuko would say such a thing and said, "Yeah, we're friends." And he allowed me to say his name, and it was only polite to have him say my name. Of course, when they're alone. And she kind of hit herself in the mind that she said alone, and her father thinks, "Ooh, that's no good. You shouldn't." And he speaks up about this topic, to never be alone with a man of any age group, no matter how. As he looks up and down on Zuko, which Izuku does not care. He was judged all his life. Him, of his type. Momo, of course, was getting a little mad by this uh, rude introduction, but Zuko does not show any emotions, so she would not too. But Zuko, of course, changing the subject, since he can see that everybody's somewhat on edge, and asked them if they could go to a quiet room and talk about, well, the real reason why I'm here. Which, well, the father and mother gladly agreed and asked for Momo to stay outside and be very proper hostess for the guests. Momo sadly had to agree, but over on the quiet room, Mr. and Mrs. Yadaruzu and Zuko having a conversation about school, but more for Nezu. After the whole conversation was over, it was mostly about the budgeting and perhaps a rule should be changed for certain things. And Zuko, of course, knowing everything, tells them on no on most of it, maybe on the others, and discuss more details with Sir Nezu when he's at his office. For more details, of course. After all of that, the party is sadly ending, and Zuko was one of the few that were still left behind. After leaving the room and going over into the main ball area, and looking around and seeing that everybody is basically leaving, which Momo, of course, had to stay outside most of the time and just bow her head and thank them all for coming. Zuko, of course, come by, stand right next to her, take off his jacket because he saw her cold, and put it around her. Momo is kind of shocked by this because, well, Zuko's very quiet. Looks around and finally looks to her left and sees Zuko, basically putting his hands on her shoulders and say, well, you seem very cold, so I'll lend you my jacket for the night. As everybody was leaving and the last person finally left, Zuko, of course, escort her back into her home and see that everybody was basically cleaning. The maids, the butlers were cleaning. And Zuko, of course, gave a hand with them as well. Not being rude, and, well, he likes cleaning a little bit more than he should. As he finished cleaning and kind of swiped some of the sweat off himself, putting it on his shoulder, he looks over to Momo and asks her if she needs anything else. As she says no, not really, but if it's okay, we can talk a little bit more. And Zuko said yes, but his phone rings. And who was it? Aizawa. And Zuko is getting a little annoyed by Aizawa, somehow knowing that he is somewhere important. So Zuko said, I'm sorry, I had to answer this. As he did it in front of her and said, yes, Aizawa. And Aizawa is just basically complaining that he does not have any good coffee if he could buy some more. Zuko, of course, said, okay, same old, right? And Aizawa said yes. And Zuko looks over to Momo and sees her very confused and curious on the other side. Zuko put it onto speaker. And Momo, surprised that Aizawa is a very nice person when he's right out of school. Very nice. And then at the end of all his flavors that he wants, also asked for Zuko to get some cat food. He forgot to get some. And Zuko said okay, and he says bye, but does not hang up. And Zuko waits for a moment, and he tells Momo to wait because he gives a very evil smile. And after, well, Aizawa believing that they hang up, went over to the cat and start baby talking to it, being as a very small king and very cute and fluffy. And Zuko could not hold his laughter, and he started to chuckle just a bit, trying to hold it back. And, well, Aizawa noticed that, hang ups, and of course making the sound of the other end hanging up. And Momo kind of chuckles and laughs a bit more. And after that whole initial interaction, Zuko said, yeah, I would love to talk some more, but sadly we had to end it at this point. I will see you and your family on Monday, okay? As he was about to leave. And Momo was waving by for him up until she kind of realized she still has his jacket on. And was yelling at Zuko, was running over to him. As Zuko kind of looks back and see her running, and kind of waits on where he was, just for her to run, saying that she was going a little too fast. She tried to stop right in front of him, but she kind of slipped and kind of rushed into his arms. Zuko said, "Whoa!" Well, of course, in a monotone voice. Whoa! I didn't know you liked having those hugs, as he gave one back. Momo, of course, enjoying this whole thing. Zuko is counting to a minute, and then letting go, and asked her if she needed anything else. And Momo said, I forgot about this. You forgot about this. And Hizuka said, oh, my jacket. I almost forgot. Thank you, Momo, as he pats her head and walks away outside the gate and walks over. When he's out of sight view, he of course turned on his wings, of course taking off his shirt because, well, he doesn't want to rip it, and start flying all the way home and report where everything he has done with Yadarozu without Momo. And Nezuo, of course, agrees with everything and will talk about more details in his office in other times, whenever they come over. Zuko makes some coffee, and that's it. Now over to Momo. She kind of went back into her house, kind of dazed in a sorts. Her parents walked by, but whatever they said to her did not really clicked. And, well, when she finally gets into her room and closed the door, she was blushing completely. And she just replayed the whole scene of her slipping into his arms, him giving her a hug, and right after she gave him right before, I believe, she giving him the jacket, she got a pet on the head. She did not know she would love this, but she is fully very happy about the night. Now, one day passed. Zuko was just talking to her in the morning about the chores and how annoying everything is, and Momo finally realized after talking with him for this whole time how he behaves. It actually looks he acts almost exactly like Principal Nezu when he's in a happy mood, which is very rare, but Zuko's acting just like that. She kind of, well, wish she noticed it sooner, but he doesn't talk about his father as if it's a huge deal or anything. He doesn't talk about how important that detail really is. After all of that, it's the next day. Zuko, of course, is in front of the gate, ringing the bell, and it's dinner time, of course. And when they both answer, tell him to come in, and they're waiting for it. Momo is just waiting for her parents to meet with Zuko once again. And to Mr. and Mrs. Yadaruzu's surprise, her boyfriend is Zuko Midoriya. Which of course shocked them both because they thought Momo's mother thought it was someone else, not knowing who, and her father believed it was Todoroki this whole time, fully expecting, well, a kid half and half hair. Not Zuko, and no less the same outfit. Zuko, of course, bowed, said hello to the other two, and, well, of course, does a certain movement of asking for Momo's hand. She, of course, gave it to him and kind of gave her a kiss on her hand. Of course, Momo completely blushed because this is also another one of her checklist. And they have their dinner. Momo's parents are very surprised that they did not think it was him. And Momo, of course, had to sit there awkwardly and just wait for everything since this never happened before. Zuko, of course, answered any and every question that they have. And then, after the dinner, Mr. Yadarozu asked for Zuko to speak with him alone, as the girls, of course, speak with each other. So, with Momo and her mother basically thinks that she picked a very nice man, young man, and he seems very strong. So, who confessed who? I'm very curious about that one. And Momo said, it's, well, you see, it's, and she explained exactly how it went on that day. Her mother thinks it's almost like a scene from a manga, but more gloomy, I think. That's the word. And Momo said, but it, it was very, I couldn't see it since I'm, that she explains about the other dates, and they were really good and focused. Now moving over to Mr. and Mr. Midoriya. Mr. Yadarozu is asking for Zuko what's the reason for all of this. And why did he not say about their relationship on the party? And Zuko said, I believe I did, but I believe you took it in a way. Or I believe, no. I remember. That conversation. As I said, friends, classmate, and I was about to say lover. I believe that's the correct term. Yes. And, well, Mr. Yadarozu thinks of the worst word, lovers. So they already have kissed, and he's saying this out loud. So you guys have already have kissed and those other things. And he's getting very furious. And was about to blow up on Zuko, but Zuko said, I'm sorry, sir. I believe you took my words in a different meaning. Or have I used the wrong word? We have not done such a act, sir. We have had held hands, hugged, I believe that's it. And hanging out, of course. Dates. And Mr. Yaruzu is a little confused by this by now and asks him what's his experience with these couple things. How many girlfriends have you had? And Zuko said, oh, I believe it's one. And Mr. Yaruzu asked, and what was her name? And Zuko said, oh, Momo. Yaruzu said, sorry kid, I mean, what was your past experience? Like other girls, them, other than Momo? And Zuko said, I have not dated with anyone else since Momo. And, well, back and forth, and a bit, Mr. Yaruzu finally realized that Zuko is not lying. And then also realized that he's going through a first time everything, first time actually becoming a boyfriend, first time actually going on a date, everything first. And he can't help but smile on how pure this kid really is, because he says a few things like out of line, but he explains in more detail when he was asked to. And those were like basically just talking. It was just awkward for Mr. Yaruzu the whole time. Zuko did not even notice until he finally explained that he doesn't really see the social cues as often, mostly because of how I lived, which Mr. Yaruzu is very curious about. And Zuko explained that he lives in a school of very famous pro heroes, but teachers no less, and adults at all my time, so never really hang out with friends or people of my age. Mr. Yaruzu is very grateful and would love to see his father. And then he remembered who his father was. He was just baffled by this point and doesn't know what else to say. Doesn't have anything else to go against him because all of his other ideas and questions were mostly for the Todoroki, not for Zuko. So they finally leave the quiet room and went over with them, and they basically just talk about schoolwork, of course, and their tests. And, well, both of her parents were drinking some water, tea, wine, whatever, and spit it out right when they heard that Zuko beat All Might. And Zuko, of course, was happy just to hear that he beat All Might. And now the Yaruzus need more questions and more details. Zuko said, of course, I believe you're going to see my father, so if you ask him for the video, and I will tell him ahead of schedule, I believe he will give you the whole show, as well as Momo's. I have re-watched it too, and her fight was very interesting. I see, and he's complimenting her and being very genuine, honest about her quirk and her way of being Mr. Aizawa. This is just cements the idea that he's perfect for their daughter. And when he was finally leaving, and Zuko of course bows to the Mr. and Mrs. Yaruzu, and he looks over to Momo, asks for her hand, and she did it, of course. But Zuko, of course, turned her around, pulled her in, and gave her a hug instead. After a minute passed, he lets go. And Zuko said, and have a nice day, or night. Momo as he leaves. Her parents are just extremely happy at this point that Zuko, her, their daughter is dating a man of their standards and higher. Broke through the ceiling and going straight up. To the point where Mr. Yalorozu said, I like him. He's a good kid. So when are you two getting married? As Momo, of course, start blushing and getting a little flustered because, well, her father finally broke out of that shell, stopped being worrying about her daughter, and starting to worry about his future son-in-law, which Momo tried to, of course, make him stop because it's embarrassing her, and I think he can still hear. And then she gets a text, said, I'll see you in school, as he gave a yawning emoji showing that he's very tired. She kind of blushed and looks at the text, as well as her mother looks at it and said, oh, what's a nice young man. I can see why you like him so much. And that just gave a huge blush on her face, rosy cheeks. And she kind of like runs off into her room, closing it and making sure that no one gets through. And I'm going to end it at this point. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day. And, well, that's it. Bye.